Okay, let's unpack this. Have you ever pictured yourself maybe unwinding in a tropical villa, perhaps right on the beach? It's a dream, many of us share. But what does that dream actually look like when you explore the real estate market there? Today, we're taking a deep dive into the fascinating world of property in Phuket. And remember, that's Phuket, pronounced Phuket. Our insights for this deep dive, they come from a particularly informed perspective. An article called Phuket Property, a Global Comparison. It's from Ocean Worldwide. Now, they're a luxury real estate agency, and what's really crucial here is their deep roots. They've been based right there in Phuket since 2004, focusing specifically on high-end residential properties, not just Phuket, but also Koh Samui.
And that expertise isn't just, theoretical. Sandra O'Neill, she's the director of Ocean Worldwide. She has personally guided thousands, literally thousands of families and investors through this exact market over many years. So that practical, really on-the-ground experience, it grounds our understanding of what's happening in Phuket. It's more than just dry data.
Right. So our mission today, to really understand how Phuket's property market actually measures up against global benchmarks. We'll try to uncover its unique dynamics, explore what makes it so appealing, and give you, whether you're maybe thinking of buying or just, curious, the well-informed perspective you need. So diving right into Phuket's market, the article makes it clear pretty quickly, comparing it to global real estate. It isn't a simple apples-to-apples thing. While prices often seem lower, maybe undercutting other top holiday spots, there's a real nuance to where that value actually lies.
Precisely. Yeah, the first thought might just be, oh, it's cheaper. But what the source reveals is, well, a more dynamic landscape. For instance, while overall rates might seem lower than some famous resort spots, prime coastal land,
Okay.
especially on that sought-after West Coast, that's seen significant price surges. Big jumps.
Okay.
And this has sort of naturally shifted interest and development towards the, let's say, more emerging eastern and northern districts of the island, which is a key insight, really, for anyone looking to invest.
And it's not just land driving things, is it? As you probably expect, tourism plays a huge role. It fuels that demand for short-term rentals.
Yeah.
But what kind of stood out to me was how savvy investors have to navigate those seasonal swings in occupancy. That must be tricky. Plus, for foreign buyers, there's that fundamental difference in ownership, the leasehold limits, meaning you don't own the land outright in many cases.
Right.
Unlike the freehold options common in many other global markets, it makes you wonder how all these factors, combine to paint the overall market picture.
Well, it actually creates a kind of unique stability. Historically, Phuket has managed to sidestep those really aggressive boom and bust cycles you see elsewhere, typically showing a steady, maybe 4 or 5% annual appreciation, which is quite healthy.
Yeah, okay.
However, we have seen some interesting shifts post-COVID. Some specific projects, they've experienced quite significant price jumps. We're talking 20%, even 25%, 30% in a single year in some cases. And this, coupled with rising construction costs right across the board, everything from bricks and mortar to, well, even garden plants, is certainly impacting current pricing. It suggests a market that's stable, yes, but definitely not static. Things are moving.
When we talk about affordability in Phuket, the article makes a really crucial point. It's entirely relative, isn't it?
Absolutely.
What might seem like a huge investment to someone from, I don't know, say, Birmingham, could look like an absolute steal to someone from London or Hong Kong, especially if they're dealing with strong currencies like the US dollar or the euro.
And this really highlights an interesting two-tiered market situation. While international buyers obviously have substantial purchasing power, it's vital to remember local incomes too. For many Thai citizens, owning property in those prime Phuket locations, it remains a pretty distant aspiration. This economic disparity, it shapes not only who buys what, but also the types of properties available at different price points right across the island.
So how does Phuket really stack up value-wise against other, desirable spots?
Yeah.
Like the south of France or maybe parts of the Caribbean?
Well, the article suggests it consistently offers better value for money, especially if you're looking at larger properties or those right on the beachfront.
Right.
But to your point earlier, it's not just about the initial sticker price, is it? We're talking about the total value proposition. You have to factor in the cost of living, potential rental yields, long-term capital appreciation prospects, and, of course, the lifestyle itself.
Yeah, the lifestyle factor is huge.
Absolutely. And the source also makes a practical suggestion here, noting that sometimes secondhand condo units can offer a more accessible entry point into the market. Ultimately, it really underscores that assessing affordability and value in Phuket is a deeply personal decision. It has to be tailored to your specific financial goals and, well, your lifestyle desires.
Let's shift focus a bit to supply, because that's always fundamental, isn't it? Especially on an island like Phuket. The inherent limitation on available land, particularly on that highly desirable west coast with those amazing Andaman sea views, that naturally pushes up property values there.
That scarcity creates a really interesting ripple effect, actually. As land on the West Coast becomes more limited and consequently more expensive, we're seeing new growth corridors emerge, particularly on the eastern side of the island now.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, areas like Cape Panwa and Cape Yamu, they're attracting significant investment precisely because they offer perhaps more affordable land options while still providing great access to the island's amenities.
And this brings us right back to tourism, doesn't it? Which is, well, undeniably the engine of Phuket's property market.
No
The
question.
sheer number of visitors directly impacts demand, both for short-term rentals and, longer-term property investments.
Right.
In fact, the REIC data, that's the Real Estate Information Center in Thailand, a key source for market trends, it shows really strong growth in residential property transfers, which really underscores how tourism fuels this healthy market activity.
It absolutely does. And what's particularly insightful from the article is how, despite those really clear seasonal peaks and troughs in tourism, you know, high season, roughly November to April, low season, May to October, despite that, the market is described as relatively inelastic.
Inelastic, okay.
Yeah, it suggests that as long as tourist numbers generally keep pace with new property developments coming online, the market tends to maintain a surprising level of stability. And that offers, a strong degree of security for investors looking at the long-term prospects there.
All right, let's say you're getting serious about owning property in Phuket. One of the first, maybe most fundamental distinctions you'll bump into is this difference between freehold and leasehold.
Critical difference.
Right. Freehold, in essence, that's outright perpetual ownership, kind of like what you'd find in many Western countries. Leasehold, on the other hand, it's more like a very, very long-term rental, usually a 30-year term, often with options for renewal. So getting your head around this is absolutely key.
It's such a critical point and one that often catches international buyers by surprise. While foreigners can actually own condo units freehold, which is good news for some, land ownership in Thailand is more complex. It frequently involves structuring the purchase through, say, a Thai company or using a long-term lease arrangement.
Right, the company route.
Exactly. And the article really strongly emphasizes that while these pathways exist, it's really imperative to thoroughly understand the local laws and definitely secure expert legal advice. You need to avoid regulatory pitfalls like unclear land titles or dealing with potentially dodgy developers. Due diligence isn't just a suggestion here, it's an absolute necessity.
Okay, so on the investment side then, beyond just the ownership structure, what about returns? You mentioned stability, but what's the trajectory been like?
Well, generally speaking, the Phuket property market has shown an upward trend over the long term, influenced by factors like inflation and, of course, increasing demand. The broader Thai property market actually saw consistent gains pretty much every year right up until the 2020 pandemic hit.
Okay, consistent growth pre-pandemic.
Yeah. And if we zoom in on the short-term rental performance, particularly for villas and those luxury condos, it's been quite robust. Often, the costs to rent these places have outpaced average inflation, which makes them attractive for income generation.
That's good news for yield-focused investors.
Definitely. And the article provides some useful benchmarks, too. It suggests Phuket typically offers around a 5–8% rental yield.
How does that compare?
Well, it compares pretty favorably to, say, Bali, which they put at maybe 4–7%, or even Miami at 6–9%. So it's competitive. Of course, past performance is never a guarantee of future results, but it certainly offers a helpful lens through which to assess the potential.
Let's consider the practicalities now, starting with financing. If you're looking to buy property in Phuket, how easy is it to get a mortgage as a foreigner?
Yeah, that's not always straightforward. Thai banks tend to be quite cautious, actually. They often require substantial down payments, pretty robust proof of income, and they usually work with conservative loan-to-value ratios.
Meaning they won't lend you the full amount, or even close.
Exactly. They'll only lend a smaller percentage of the property's total assessed value.
Okay. So what are the alternatives?
Well, international financing can sometimes be an option, but it might come with higher interest rates attached. What's interesting, though, according to the article, is that while Thai interest rates do fluctuate, their direct impact on Phuket's property market. which is largely cash-based, remember, isn't as pronounced as you might think.
Right.
However, what does seem to influence buyer behavior are interest rate changes in other countries.
Ah, okay. How so?
Well, if deposit rates rise significantly in an investor's home country, making it more attractive to just keep money in the bank there, they might naturally demand higher rental yields from their Phuket properties to make the overseas investments still seem worthwhile. It shifts their expectations.
That makes sense. Okay, beyond financing infrastructure, that plays a massive role in Phuket's overall appeal, doesn't it? It's not just about the stunning beaches.
Absolutely critical.
The island needs to support its growing resident and tourist population. Now, we've seen significant expansions at the international airport, which is great for accessibility, yet ground transportation,
hmm
things like the road networks, the limited public transport options, that can still be a bit of a challenge, right? Especially during peak tourist season.
It can be, yeah. And thinking about the day-to-day living aspect, the electricity supply is generally pretty reliable, which is good. But water scarcity, that can become an issue during the dry season in some areas.
Right.
On the plus side, though, high-speed internet is widely available now, which is fantastic for supporting remote work and, modern digital lifestyles.
So a mixed bag on infrastructure, though.
Sort of. I mean, Phuket's infrastructure has certainly made huge strides compared to even a decade ago, no question. But the source suggests it still has some catching up to do in certain areas, particularly when you compare it directly to truly global metropolitan centers, especially regarding expensive public transport.
Okay, let's delve into who's actually buying in Phuket these days. The market seems to draw a surprisingly diverse group.
It really does. You can broadly split them into two main categories, according to the article. First, you have Western buyers, think Europe, North America, Australia. They're often seeking retirement homes or maybe holiday properties.
The classic dream.
Exactly. And then there's the increasingly active Asian demographic. Buyers from places like China, Singapore, Hong Kong. They seem driven by a mix of both investment potential and lifestyle aspirations.
And do they look for different things?
Well, the source makes a great distinction here between what it calls lifestyle investors and yield-focused investors.
Okay.
Lifestyle investors, they primarily prioritize quality of life, the amenities, the environment. They're often seeking those luxury villas or maybe beachfront apartments for long-term personal enjoyment. It's about the experience.
Right, and the yield focused.
Their main goal is rental income and capital gains. So they're meticulously analyzing things like occupancy rates, potential returns, running the numbers carefully.
Got it. Understanding those different motivations must be key to really grasping the market's underlying demand drivers.
Absolutely. It explains why certain types of properties appeal to certain segments.
That makes perfect sense. So looking ahead then, what's potentially on the horizon for Phuket? What's next?
Well, the article points towards what it calls under-the-radar neighborhoods. Places like Rawai and Kamala are mentioned.
Okay, why them?
They suggest these areas offer a potentially compelling blend of maybe slightly more affordability combined with good growth potential, which makes them particularly appealing perhaps to families or those looking for longer-term residency, not just a holiday spot.
Interesting. Moving beyond specific neighborhoods, what about broader trends?
Yeah, if we connect this to the bigger picture, Phuket's future will certainly be shaped by global real estate shifts. Economic trends, geopolitical events, changing demographics worldwide.
Sure.
For example, rising interest rates in major economies, like we discussed, or even changes in international visa regulations, those could significantly impact buyer behavior and demand.
And anything else emerging?
What's also becoming increasingly important, and this is a global trend reflected in Phuket, is the focus on sustainability and resilience. We're seeing a growing demand for eco-friendly developments for energy-efficient homes, and also for features like smart home technology. It reflects a wider shift in what buyers value these days.
Right. So summing this all up, what's the big takeaway for you, for the listener, from this deep dive into Phuket property? Especially drawing on the expertise from Ocean Worldwide. It really paints a picture of a market that, well, it stands strong on its own merits, doesn't it?
I think so.
While you might not find those, wild, speculative price jumps you might see in a market like London, the entry price in Phuket is often significantly lower. That's a major difference. It seems like a remarkably stable market overall, continually fueled by that powerful tourism engine. And it really offers distinct value propositions for different types of buyers, from those dreaming of that luxury villa escape to those laser-focused on solid rental yields.
And that really leads to a deeper question, perhaps, for you listening to consider. In this world that's just awash with information, where, the real gems of value can often be obscured, what combination of factors truly defines value for your specific goals, whether that's in an investment or simply in your pursuit of knowledge generally? Is it the allure of maybe the quick returns, or is it the quiet confidence that comes with long-term, stable growth that resonates most with you?
That's definitely a thought-provoking challenge, something to mull over, isn't it? We certainly hope this deep dive has given you a genuine shortcut to being, well, truly well-informed about the dynamic and fascinating real estate landscape of Phuket.